570. So IS Identity Server 570 was released last week officially. So this is the first time we introduced UMA 2.0 support. We in fact implemented UMA 1.0, but that never came to the mainstream product. But UMA 2.0 now with IS 570. So these are the features we implemented for 570. So dynamic client registration API we already had since Identity Server 5.0. So resource registration API, permission API, and the updates to the introspection API. Then to support UMA protection scope, and then the UMA grant type. And the policies like resource access policies are defined in SACML. So mostly this release focused on building the API layer. So we haven't built like any nice UIs on top of this stuff. So it's basically the API layer that we introduced with IS 5.7. So this is
our
roadmap.
On top of those, yeah. Can I ask about those policies? Is it internal to the server, or would you use like an external XACML engine? Or could you tell more about this, please?
Yeah, it's the internal Identity Server's XACML engine. Yes, okay, thank you. XACML engine built into the Identity Server. Did that answer your question, Mashe? Or?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions on this? Okay. So this is our roadmap. So this is our plan for Q1, Q2 next year. So we haven't implemented the interactive claim gathering. So that will be part of 5.9 or early next year. Then for the claim token, we only support ID token. So that will we plan to support SAML as well. Then metadata endpoint. I think that's a minor change we need to do. Then the major change would be like to build UI on top of this, like build an end user UI in our user portal. So we have a user portal in Identity Server, but in most of the time, when most of our customer deployments, they build their own portals and just talk to our APIs. So in the user portal, we plan to give the end user the control, the resource owner the control to define policies through a UI rather than like knowing SACML stuff. They will give a nice UI and internally we'll generate the policies. And also we'll give the ability to manage the authorized resource servers, like if you want to revoke tokens or do stuff related to authorized resource servers. And also generate analytics related to requesting parties, like who is trying to access a resource, who is requesting these RPTs, so those stuff. And also notifications on approved RPT. So whenever, so this happens offline. So whenever there's an approval for an RPT, so Identity Server will generate SMS or an email and will be sent to the resource owner. Then a major part would be like the integrate this with our API manager. So we have a API manager product too, so which will act as a gateway to the resource server. So this will take some part of like the token validation stuff, talking to the authorization server to get a permission token. Those stuff will be done by the API gateway, and it should work with other UMA implementations as well. So this is our plan for next few quarters, like next 3 quarters. Any questions? Okay, so this is a demo that I'm going to show you, but to set the expectations right, this is not a pretty demo with nice UIs. So this is all curl and API level stuff I'm going to show you. So here are the components. So we have the Identity Server, which is acting as the UMA authorization server. Then we have the resource server, which is basically, let's say, the Kaiser Permanente, some like hospital, which maintains a set of medical records. Then we have Medicare client applications where the medical staff can log in and request patient data. So this is the use case I'm going to show you. So if I quickly go through this one, so first this Tom is an user in Identity Server. He will log into the resource server and he'll get read, and after that he need to introduce Identity Server as an authorization server to this resource server. So number 2 arrow is for that. So you authenticate with IS, then Identity Server will issue a token, a PAT, to the resource server. Then number 3, using that, it will using the dynamic the resource registration. Sorry. Using the resource registration, it will register resources at the identity server number 3, and then after that, sorry.
Popular.
No, the thing is, I am on silent on the phone, but it comes to the iPad.
Right.
Let me switch off the phone. Okay, sorry about it. Yeah. So number 4 would be like, so once the resources are introduced to the identity server, number 4, you log into the identity server and define access control policies against those resources. That's the number 4. And then number 5, so the bootstrap process is done. Then number 5, so John logs into the Medicare application. There you have the identity provider, which is trusted by this Medicare client app. So you do an open ID connect for there. And number 6, end of the number 6, you get the ID token, so which will also act as the claim token. Then number 7, so this is actually, I don't have a curl for this. Like, so you just invoke a resource, and then the resource server will generate a permission ticket to the token to the identity server, and then pass it back. Then number 10, the client application will talk to the identity server to get an RPT, and there you send the ID token, which it got from number 6, to get pass it as a claim token. Then after that, number 11, you access the API, and then resource server number 12 talk to the identity server, introspection, and validate the token. So this is the flow I'm going to show you. So this will be done through a set of curls. Any questions? Okay. So I have the identity server running already, and so this is my first curl command. So basically, I'm doing a curl to the token endpoint of identity server to get a pad. So all the endpoints are defined here. So in here, all the endpoints are defined here. The token endpoint, authorization endpoint, introspection endpoint, then the resource registration endpoint, and the permission endpoint. Okay. So now the first curl command is this one. So to get a pad. Okay. So now I got the access token. This is in fact the protection token. So now I need to export this as, which is being used by the other curl command. Okay. Then after that, I do the resource registration. So this is that curl command. So I'm registering this resource under this resource type with this set of scopes, and passing the pad in the authorization header. Okay. So now I got the resource ID. So here you can see we are not supporting the policy URL, and policy URL in fact is optional in the OMA spec. So I got this one. So now I'll export this. ID. And I need to define a policy now. So this is the 4th step in the diagram. So let me log into the identity server. Okay, so this is our policy administration point. So this is that policy. So I need to copy this resource ID. So this process will be seamless, and the user experience will be improved in the next version. You don't need to, like, user is not required to edit these policies by themselves. And this is also exposed on API. Actually, you don't need to log into the management console even. So this defined policy, like who can access this resource. And I also need to publish this to the PTP. Okay, done. And after that, so this is the bootstrap process is done now. And now the if you look at this diagram, this step, right? So Jason logs into, John logs into the Medicare application via this IDP. So for that, I'm using OpenID Connect, and I have a curl script there. Okay, so here I get the ID token, an access token. This is from a third-party IDP, and identity server trusts this particular IDP. And now I need to export this ID token as the claim token. Okay, done. Right. So now I don't have this step because this is outside the scope of the authorization server. So this will do a call to the resource server, the client application without a token, and then resource server will do a call to the permission endpoint of the identity server to get the ticket. So that is this curl command. I'll show you that too. This one. Okay, so it is doing a request to the permission endpoint of the identity server, passing the resource ID and also the required scopes. Okay, so now I got the ticket, right? So this ticket will be sent back to the Medicare client in step 9 with the pointer to the authorization server. So let me export this one here. This will be used by the other curl command. So now after that, this Medicare app will talk to the identity server to get an RPT. And there you pass the ID token you got in step 6 as the claim token. So that is done by this curl script. So here you can see I'm passing the ticket, and also I'm passing the claim token, and also I'm setting this claim token format to ID token. Now if I run this one, okay, so this gave me back the RPT. Now I need to export this as token. And now this will invoke, this is step 11. So using this RPT, it will talk to the resource server. Then step 12, then the resource server will talk to the identity server to validate that by talking to the introspection endpoint of the identity server. So that is this one. So you talk to the introspection endpoint, passing this token. Yeah, so now this is an introspection response, which returns back, this is specific to UMA, right? The resource scope is view and the resource ID and the username, and also this is active. So that's the flow I plan to demo.